What's up, guys? It's Josh with TheCardGuyz, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be going through a live build of Dorinthea Ironsong in Classic Constructed. It has been quite a while since Dorinthea has been CC viable, but with the exiting of Prism and the shifting of the metagame, I think she's in a pretty good spot right now. So we're just gonna build the deck from the ground up. We're gonna start with a blank slate, and I'm gonna talk through a lot of different cards. We're gonna talk about the matchups. We're gonna talk about the sideboard. We're gonna be really in-depth and thorough in this video. So this could be a little bit of a longer one, but I hope that you guys will enjoy this type of content. So let's just jump right into it. So today I'm going to be using the Fabry website to construct my deck. I like their sideboarding and their integration with talishar.net. Speaking of talishar.net, we will be using some of their stats to help with the analysis. In addition, we are going to be looking at some of the deck lists from week 1 of the National Championship. In particular, we're going to be looking at the Icelander decks and the Oldhim deck. We're also going to be taking a quick look at some of the aggro decks as well. And we're just going to be talking through the general metagame. I've also prepared a little document here, so we will have a little bit of structure in this video. So I'm not just blabbling on forever. All right, so the very first question we want to answer is, why Dorinthea? Well, the current metagame is fairly favorable for her for several reasons. First of all, Prism left. That was one of the hardest matchups in the game for Dorinthea. You just didn't have a lot of poppers. Her auras often would just stay on the board because you just couldn't spend time to kill them. She had access to Arc-like Sentinel, and it was just a very rough matchup in general. But with her leaving, several decks stepped into the fray. So let's talk about the current expected meta. So this is my personal opinion. It is currently September 15th, bright and early, 8 a.m. I still have some jet lag from Europe, so that's why I'm recording this at 9 a.m. in the morning. But yeah, let's take a look at the what I think is the expected metagame. So, these are not hard numbers, but I think you can categorize things into 4 categories. You know, the common decks at 15, the fairly common decks at 10, a little bit more uncommon at 5, and then all the other 8 heroes are classified as others. So, Briar and Viserai, these guys are just staples of the game at this point. They're fairly consistent, and they... A lot of Runeblade players are just kind of loyal to their class, so I expect to see a decent share of both of these decks. A lot of people have a lot of reps on these decks, and they feel very comfortable with them, and they both are fairly decent against the new decks, Oldhim, Icelander, and Dromai, so I think we will expect to see a decent share of those. Fi, however, is a little bit more susceptible to the Oldhim and Icelanders, so I think we're going to see him drop off a little bit. We already saw him drop off a little bit since the Stubbies ban. He didn't have a huge showing at Pro Tour 2 or the Leal Calling, and we haven't really seen him much in the National Championship in Week 1. I mean, is he even here? Yeah, okay, we got 1, but 2. But basically, there's 3, I guess. But we're not seeing Fi top the events, and as a result, the metagame has also become a little bit harsher for him. So I think his meta share is going to decrease a little bit. Oh, just to be clear, so I colored this into red, yellow, green, and blue, just because as Dorinthea, these are actually how I kind of categorize the matchups. So the red ones here, these are the aggro matchups. These are where you're going to have to be pretty quick. You're going to have to... The game is not going to last very long. You're going to have to, you know, get things going really quickly. These yellow matchups here, these are going to be decks that the game is going to go a bit longer. They're either going to be able to disrupt you, or they're going to have a lot of armor like Bravo, or they're going to have a lot of D-reacts like Dash. And these decks you're going to have to pilot a bit slower. You're going to have to set up a little bit more. Dromai is kind of its own category here. This is a matchup where it's going to kind of depend on the Dromai's build a bit, and how easily can she generate baby dragons. Dromai doesn't really want to put down the big dragons because you just clean them up. Not only do you clean them up, but you also get Dawn Blade counters, or you can present attacks to Dromai that have the Dawn Blade counters on them. And then all the other decks are, I consider them others here. So they're each one is going to be kind of a unique situation. However, I think most of these matchups you should at least be slightly favored in. Like Lexi and Katsu are not too difficult to take down. Reinhardt can be a little bit of an issue depending on their build and their strategy, but again, I don't think that is a unwinnable matchup at all. So yeah, we have 4 different categories here. So this is something that we're gonna have to address in terms of our build. We're gonna have to create a build that is, fast enough to deal with these decks, that has enough power to push through these decks, and won't get caught off guard by these decks that require a bit more careful piloting and or puts us into unique situations, right? Okay, so anyways, I was talking about the percentages here. So I think, in general, we're going to see, 30 to 40% aggro at Nats. And we've also seen a rise in Icelander. One of the worst matchups for Icelander was Prism. With that being gone and, Oldhim coming up a bit, that's good for Icelander. However, Dromai getting popular is also kind of bad for Icelander. That's actually one of the, one illusionist left, but another one entered. So it's not exactly the easiest time for Icelander. And, some of the stats on here actually reflect that. I mean, partly it's piloting difficulty, but also I think this deck might be slightly overrated at the moment, but it does have a lot of play and potential, which I think good players will enjoy. This is a deck where you're in control of your destiny. Whereas, heroes like Briar and Fi, you're kind of at the mercy of your cards. Icelander, if you want to see the second cycle of your deck, you can pretty much guarantee that. And there's a lot of decision making to be made with Icelander, and I think a lot of good players enjoy that. So even though her win rate here is not that high, I think she's still a pretty decent deck. However, she does struggle against Dromai. Bravo, this is another deck that we've seen come up a bit, with Prism leaving, Oldhim and Bravo get more popular. And Bravo is typically built these days as a little bit quicker deck. And, if you don't want to play a super aggro deck, but you don't want to play, a super controlling deck, you could kind of have a middle-of-the-road deck like Bravo. Or you can even have a deck like Dash where it can switch between 2 different styles. You can go with the boost Dash, Tackle Pounder, go for the boost and try to hit them with max velocity. Or you can play the control Dash, you try to set up items. You play D-reacts and stuff like that. So yeah, those are those 4. Dromai, the current builds of Dromai, very, very heavy on the dragons in general. And we're seeing them sort of figure out what their deck wants to look like. And right now it's pretty heavy just in dragons right now. We're not seeing a lot of Senpai builds from Dromai at the moment. In terms of the other decks, I don't think you're going to see a lot of the other decks. Actually, this metagame already is very open. I mean, to have 8 heroes that I think you would run into in a tournament, it's actually very possible to play 8 rounds and play 8 different heroes in this format. So that's a good thing in that it's going to reward players that know their matchups and know their deck. All right, so the next question we need to ask is, what is the game plan of these meta decks? So we're going to talk about each of those, and then we're going to develop our game plan for those decks, and that'll help us shape our deck building. All right, so I'm going to focus most of my attention here. I asked on Twitter, what would you guys like to see me talk about? And a lot of people talked about Oldhim. They talked about Ice in general, and it seems like a lot of people really are either struggling with these matchups or they're not exactly sure how to build their deck to deal with these, so I'm going to talk about that. All right, so these two heroes have something in common, in that you need to know what they are capable of doing to you. These are decks that really reward you for knowing what they're capable of, because they're disruptive. They play at instant speed. You need to be aware of what they can do. All right, let's start with Icelander here. So the current Icelander deck generally will involve Frost Hex, and they will give you a bunch of Frostbites using Weather Vane or Sigil of Permafrost, or they will use their boots and, something like Ice Eternal or something like that. So that's generally how they intend to win. They tend to play defense and set up some Frost Hexes and... what is that card? Insidious Chill. Just to slow you down, just to tax your deck a bit. And... yeah, so that's how they intend to win, basically. However, they also use tall arcane spells. They have Aether Hail, Ice Bolt, Ice Eternal, as I was talking about. Freezing Point is another one. And, of course, the Aether Ice Vein, one of their best cards. So, not only are they going to set up, but if you give them some time, they're also going to chuck some tall arcane spells at you. They also have access to a slew of disruption in Blizzard, Hypothermia, Channel Lake Frigid, and Insidious Chill, and all four of those cards can come out at instant speed from Arsenal. So that is a thing. In terms of their armor suite, they have access to Cornet, Peak, Tunic, and their Ironhide Gauntlets, in addition to Stormstriders, which doesn't block. So in general, I think most of them are going to be running that. This one's running Galath Gauntlet. This one's running Ironhide Gauntlet. So they're basically going to have 4 to 5 armor, and they're generally not going to want to throw their... I'm sorry, 3 to 5 armor. They're not going to want to throw Tunic in front of your attacks very often. So they basically have Coordinate Peak to block with, and if they do block with this, they lose the ability to keep you off 5-card hands, which is pretty bad. So I don't actually, even though they have decent armor, I don't expect them to throw it in front of many of your attacks unless they're very desperate. So the next thing we need to look about is we need to look at their defense suite. This will kind of dictate how we want to play the matchup. So they generally run 0 to 3 Oasis Respite, 0 to 3 Sink Below, and 0 to 6 Sigil of Permafrost. So here, these are decks. These are the 3rd and 4th place decks from the Australian National Championship. As you can see here, Matthew's deck has Fate Foreseen, Oasis Respite, Sink Below, and yeah, that's about it. So he basically has 9. He's also playing the Ironhide Gauntlet. So this would be, a little bit more defensive Icelander. However, if we look at Philip's deck here, Philip is... he's not even running any D-Reacts, and he's running even less armor. So it's possible that they actually aren't running any defense. And that's kind of a trend we're seeing. They're like, if you actually notice, both of those decks weren't even running Sigil of Permafrost. And if you know, you'll kind of notice this within like 4 or 5 turns as Dory. One of the very, very important things as Dory is because you're a mid-range deck, you can adapt to what your opponent is doing and how their deck is constructed. So if you notice after like 5, 6 turns, they don't have Sigil of Permafrost, like you know you can like push a bit harder there, right? So anyways, so now we've looked at, how they intend to win. We've looked at, their tall arcane spells, how they intend to disrupt us, their armor suite, and their defense suite. We could kind of construct a plan. So I think the appropriate plan against Iyslander is to be back pump focused. So this means playing things after you swing your Dawnblade, because it doesn't give the Iyslander priority to, like, if I play Spoils of War, in response to Spoils of War, they can play something from Arsenal. They can give us a bunch of Frostbites. They can really shut down our turn. So if we just, pitch a blue, swing Dawnblade, that puts them in a very, very tough spot. If they don't block us and we just, pour damage into them, they can easily take like 10, 12 damage, and they're not going to be able to keep that up for very long. So yeah, we're going to go back pump focused. We're going to, obviously, we're going to need a higher blue count against them. Sometimes I was running as little as 16 blues in my 60. I think we're going to be probably running, we're going to use the hypergeometric calculator, but we're going to be running closer to probably 21 or so, maybe even 22. And we're also going to utilize the Tunic for tempo. So that just, basically count 1 out of 3 turns is counteracts a Frostbite. So that's going to be quite useful. So we're going to run AB3. Yeah, we're going to run AB3 Tunic against them. So yeah, that's the plan against Iyslander. All right, let's talk about Oldhim here. So Oldhim, there's 2 types of Oldhim builds, and often they can switch between these. There is a more aggro focused Oldhim with things like Zealous Belting and trying to put a couple attacks on the combat chain, and they like to utilize Pummel. And the other type of Oldhim is a more fatigue style, more defensive style. It is actually possible for the Oldhim to construct their deck so that you basically can't win. If they put in all the D-reacts, they're running things like Steadfast and Oasis Respite, Sync, Fate, Biting Gale, Staunch Response. Like, it's possible that, and if they have a ton of Earth cards to activate their D-react, like, it's possible that you can't win that. However, the current builds of Oldhim actually are not built that way. So let's take a look at Nick Butcher's deck here. Again, knowing your opponent and how they're likely to build their deck is super important. I actually haven't been playing much because I've been in Europe. After Pro Tour Lille, I took some time to travel around. So I actually haven't been playing much, but I've been keeping up with the trends in the metagame. I've been looking at deck lists. I've been talking with people, and that is super important, especially for a mid-range deck like Dorinthea. You really need to know your matchups, and if you don't know your matchups, decks like Guardian are going to punish you. So let's look very carefully at this deck list. Let's figure out how to build a deck list that can deal with this type of Oldhim. So first of all, we want to take a look at, is this an aggressive deck, or is this a more passive deck, or is this a deck that can switch between things? All right, so we have things like Zealous Belting, Thunderquake, Pummel, even running Glacial Footsteps. This is a, I think the red one is a good indicator if they're playing aggressive or not. We have the the Pummel here. So I guess this is a little bit more aggressive style. In terms of defense, we got 2 Oasis Respite. We have 3 Sink Below. We have 3 Red Staunch. Do we have the Blue Staunch? We do not. We have the Pulse of Eisenloft. This is just going to be an auto include, obviously. In terms of Earth cards, he's running 3 Autumn's Touch, 2 Sotomorrow. He's not running Earthlore Surge, so he actually only has 6 ways: the Autumn Touch, the Sotomorrow, the Pulse, to activate the Earth D-React. So this type of deck, I'd be totally happy to go against as Dory. Like, he has 2, 5, 8 D reacts, and he has 6 ways to activate his hero. And, you know, I mean, we're going to be running some amount of D reacts, so we can actually deal with pummel as well. Unless it's on a Command and Conquer, obviously. So this type of deck I would actually feel very fine to play against as Dory. So, yeah. So, in terms of their armor suite, this is their expected loadout against us. They're going to be running Crown of Seeds, Tunic, Crater Fist, Ironhide Legs, and Rampart of the Ram's Head. And in terms of their D-Reacts, I've already talked about how they could be running 3 to 6 Staunches, 0 to 3 Sinks, 0 to 3 Oasis Respite, 0 to 3 Fate Foreseen, 0 to 3 Biting Gale. So this is Biting Gale is really the key card that you're looking at. Like if we go back here and we look at let's see, let's take a look at this Battle Hardened deck list. Nope, not that one. All right, yeah, well, but basically if there's Biting Gale in the deck list, I think it was in there was a Australian event maybe a month ago, and that deck was running Biting Gale plus Oasis Respite, and it was really built to beat up on Fi. However, I don't think the Oldhim decks nowadays are going to be built that way. There just really isn't a need to build super defensively anymore. Plus, if you build super defensively, I think your matchup against Dromai suffers quite a bit, and your Icelander matchup also suffers. Also, in terms of the Earth cards, you know, roughly 6, possibly up to 9 cards. So, Oldhim in CC actually is not built ultra defensively. It was very common in Blitz to see Oldhim built with every defense reaction, every defensive card that they could build. I remember at PT1, my brother was in the Battle Hardened, and he was playing Dory, and he came up to me. I asked him how his round went, and he was like, oh, I played against 17 D-React Oldhim. I'm like, okay, well, you don't have to tell me if you won or lost. I already know. You're very unlikely, I would say, to come into, like, Turtle Oldhim, which, if they're not playing Turtle Oldhim, the matchup is totally fine, especially if you understand how to set up turns properly and how to deal with their disruption. So, our approach depends on their configuration. If they're racing, we need to know when to block, and we need to utilize our defense reactions very wisely to make sure that things like Oakenold don't get value, Pummel don't get value, etc. If they are trying to fatigue us, we need to make sure we play out all of our attack reactions. So every single time we use an attack reaction to block, that's less damage for us to get over the line. So yeah. I know a lot of people have talked about how hard Oldhim is, and I think it really comes down to the fact that Guardian is really tough to deal with if you so let's talk about like a ladder. Like I come from a StarCraft background, so in the StarCraft ladder there was bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, masters, and then the top 200 players were in grandmasters. And from, like, bronze to, like, mid-masters, certain strategies were really tough to deal with. If you're familiar with StarCraft, Banelings were very difficult for Terrans to deal with because they just didn't have this skill to split their Marines properly. Same in this game. Oldhim and Bravo, up until, like, mid-masters level, is gonna... Like, if you put two... you know, gold level players against each other, the Oldhim and Bravo has a massive advantage. It's not until you develop enough reps on the deck and have a solid game plan and understand how their deck interacts with yours, do you get to more 50-50 matchups. So if you struggle with the Oldhim matchup as Dory, if you're struggling against, you know, the super turtle fatigue style, unfortunately, I don't think there's much that can be done. But if you're struggling against, you know, the more mid-rangey Oldhim, the more aggressive Oldhim, I think that you just really need to look at how you're playing your hands and how you're setting up and how you're utilizing your defense reactions, because there's probably some leaks that you can tighten up there. So yeah, overall, I don't think this matchup is as hard as it seems. I would actually be fairly fine to handle most Oldhams. In addition, because Dorinthea has been gone for so long, very few people have enough reps against Dorinthea and understand her card pool in depth and understand the lines that she can take. So I think even if you're playing against a more turtle Oldham, if they mess up their blocks, you can take advantage of that if you're strong enough. All right, let's move on to Dash, the other control deck. I guess Bravo's also a control deck. So Dash basically is going to they're going to sideboard in their induction chambers, their plasma purifiers. They're going to bring in Sync Fate and Unmovable. And they're going to try to set up and value us out with their pistol. So basically, like I said, they're going to set up items. They're going to utilize D-Reacts, and they have a lot of 3 blocks to slow the game down and to set up. And they're going to utilize... they actually have a pretty decent armor suite. They're going to be running Crown, Foundry Heart, Ironrite Gauntlets, and Achilles Accelerator. And you can basically expect to see these 9 D-Reacts. Every Dash build that can switch is basically running these. So how do we deal with Dash? Well, this is very, very similar to how we dealt with Dash in the CRU meta. So back in Crucible of War, when Dory and Dash were the queens of CC, this was one of the most classic matchups. And basically what you wanted to do was set up a bit and execute a triple hit combo. And you needed to do that somewhat quickly, because as soon as they got enough time to set up, you were kind of in trouble. So I think that carries over here as well. Against Dromai, basically, if they are playing big dragons, you're going to be pretty happy. You'll be able to kill those dragons without too much difficulty and get a counter on your Dawnblade. Sometimes if you play Glistening Steelblade and there's 2 dragons to kill, you can get 3 +1 counters. Once you build up enough +1 counters, you can go after Dromai. However, if the Dromai is playing properly, they are not going to offer up dragons for you to slaughter. In which case, you're going to need to be a little bit, more cognizant of how you're playing. If they're building their deck, let's see if we can pull up a Dromai deck list here. All right, so let's pull up this one here. So let's take a look here. So, okay, so actually this one is running quite a bit of Senopais. So if you're running against Senopais, I think you need to save your poppers for the dragons in general, if possible. Breaking these is not really good because that allows them to buy back their action point with Phantasmal Footsteps. But yeah, as you can see, there's like every single dragon here. Yeah. Okay, so it's actually possible that they built so if they're building their deck with Sweeping Blow, Spears of Serality, and the Senopais, I think that's kind of the expected build. I expect them to sideboard into these, obviously with the sinks, and it looks like this one's not running Oasis for Spite. But yeah, they're probably going to play more of the attack action style rather than offering up these dragons for you to kill. In terms of armor, they have Flamescale Furnace, Crown. These are both pretty solid. They also can throw their footsteps there, I guess, because it may not be getting a lot of value. But yeah, it basically comes down to kind of adjusting to what they're doing and just playing your hands correctly. Against Bravo, this is one of the most classic matchups in the game. This is actually one of my favorite matchups in the game because you both are playing very, very reactively and off of each other, and the game often goes very long. There's a lot of ability to feel out how your opponent is playing. And there's a lot of play to be had on both sides. So I really like this matchup. This matchup comes down to using your shunts properly, your red shunts, and recognizing how their deck interacts with your own deck. And you need to save some gas for the second cycle. So it's kind of a race for them and you in terms of, do you run out of threats or do they run out of D-reacts? Now, normally they run out of D-reacts first. As long as you're saving some of your attack reacts for the second cycle, there should be a period of the game when you can check their graveyard and count and be like, okay, you only have 1 D-react left in your deck. And that's when things get really, really tough for Bravo, especially considering his armor suite will go away. Bravo actually has a ton of armor. You can run the full fridge against us. So this is a matchup where you got to play it very patiently. Do not rush this matchup at all. It's really important to realize that in terms of efficiency, Bravo is going to be more efficient than you generally. Things like Staunch Response literally can like trade 1 for 4, 1 for 3. So it's very, very common for you to run very, very low on deck, and you really, really need to utilize each card. Against 5 Viscera and Briar, I mean, these matchups, I all kind of lump them together, but it basically comes down to knowing when you should be blocking and when you should be attacking, looking at your hand, knowing if it's go time. In other words, don't be bad. If you're not being bad, you should be fine against these 3 decks. Of these, I would say Fi and Briar are easier because they defend very poorly. And they also kind of need to high roll you a little bit to get there. Viscera, much, much more consistent damage. They also have arcane damage that's very difficult to deal with as Dorinthea and as Warrior in general. Plus, Viscera has more 3 blocks in their deck and more armor. So Viscera is definitely might even be slightly unfavored. I would say it's close to 50-50. But Fi and Briar, I believe both of these should be solidly favored for Dory if you're playing properly. Okay, so we have talked about all of the matchups. We have talked about what their game plan is against us. And we've talked a little bit about what our game plan should be against them. Let's jump into building the deck now. All right. So again, I'm using the Fabry website. It's pretty cool. It has integration with Talishar, so I quite like it. All right, let's get going here. All right, so we're gonna make this a link-only list. It will be in the video description. You'll be able to check it out and play. All right, what are we gonna call this? We're gonna call this JL's Dory Reborn, and it is the 15th. This is CC Dory. Okay. So we're gonna pick that. All right, let's see here. So, what is the best way to build? Let's start with the warrior cards. All right, so I'm going to talk about all the cards I think are relevant, and I will be kind of throwing. I'm going to build more than 80 cards. I'm going to throw probably 100 to 120 cards into the deck, and we're going to cut from there. All right. So in general, given this meta game, we need to maintain some speed, but we also need some power to deal with this. We're also going to need a slightly higher blue count, and we're also going to need some fairly heavy hitters to break through Oldhim, Bravo, and Dash. So we're going to build a deck that's going to be a little bit more back pump focused. However, I think we still need quite a few go again cards just to ensure that we can race the aggro decks. All right, first card here is Biting Blade. Those of you who know me know that this is one of my pet cards. Behind Route, I would say this is my second favorite card. This card is really, really nice to have because you can tutor for it. And if you tutor for it with Singing Steel Blade, obviously Reprise would be active. That would grant +5. So they can't deal with it with Sink Below or Fate Foreseen. However, this card is a little clunky, a little bit slow, so we're just going to put one in the sideboard, I think. Blade Runner, we're not going to be building a... I guess we should just add in the Dawnblade here, right? Where is it? All right, this is a Dawnblade deck. I will talk about Dawnblade respelling it in a bit. We are not playing the Sabers or Hatchets. Okay, so Blade Runner obviously can't be played. Dauntless. This is kind of a trap card in my opinion. I would only play Dauntless if there was a like 15-20% dash. This is the only time I would actually be playing Dauntless. This card is any card that you play pre-combat has to be really good. Driving Blade Red just costs too much. Duskpath Pilgrimage, a cute effect, but you need multiple sources of Go Again, and this costs a card and a resource. It's difficult to utilize. On guard is Bad Sharpened Steel. We're not going to run it. Red Hit and Run. So this is a card that used to be part of something called the Twinning Blade package. But, so that was 3 Twinning Blades, 3 Time Snap Potions, 3 Red Hit and Runs. And that came in when you run it to execute a triple hit combo. However, I don't think this card is particularly useful right now or necessary. You just have enough Go Again now, and, you know, Twinning Blade is a main deck card now, and I mean, you have your bolters if you really need to hit a third time. This was for executing multiple triple hit combos, which I don't think is necessary to do right now. So we're gonna put one in the sideboard, but we're probably gonna cut it down to 0 eventually. This is either a 0 or 3, basically. In the swing, this card is not what we're looking for. This is mainly for the, you know, Kasai decks. Iron Song Response, this card's pretty damn good. However, this is a card that I would actually go a 2-1 split on. This is a card that, you know, if you ever draw this plus Singing Steelblade, and you're playing against an aggro deck, it's possible that they don't block, and you can get kind of screwed over. So I'd actually, you know, cut Iron Song Response in the aggro matchups generally. Nature's Path Pilgrimage, I've played around with this card. I don't think it's more for limited. It's a decent card, but you have to build your whole deck around it. The blue is decent. Sometimes I do run the blue. I think the blue is actually not too bad. Oath of Steel, this is eventually this will have some use, but at the moment it does not. This only had use in Kasai against Oldhim in Blitz. This would be utilized with Blood on Our Hands to basically get over the Turtle Oldhim's block. Out for Blood Red, staple card. We're going to play all of them. You're going to notice that we're going to have above average 1-for-3s in this deck. This is actually probably the best 1-for-3 that we have access to. Outland Skirmish. We're not running one-handed weapons. Overpower Red. This is a very nice card. However, we do not need 3 copies in the main board. We will put 2 in the sideboard, though, because this is just a card that is very good in some matchups and very mediocre in some matchups. Plow Through. This is a card that I've been teetering back and forth on. I do like this card, but it's a little narrow, and it also it's only really good against the Guardians, and then against the Guardians you could just play Back Pump. We're gonna this is either a 0 or 3. We'll put it in the sideboard for now, but we may cut this. Push Forward. Occasionally I would run 1 in Blitz or 1 in Kasai. This card is if this card costs 0, this would be much nicer. Basically, you know, a better Sharpened Steel. But as it stands right now, it costs 1. The cost curve on Dory is really tight. We really can't afford it. Route, my favorite card in the game. We're going to be playing 1 in the main board and 1 in the sideboard. I don't think 3 routes are really necessary right now, but you would definitely like a second one in certain matchups. Second swing, 1 for 4, with condition, no thank you. Sharpened Steel, this is a pretty solid card. This is a card that I cut for a while, but the deck just does not feel right without Sharpened Steel, and we're going to play all 3 of them in the main board. Slice and Dice Red. I've seen some people utilizing this, but I don't think that's really where you want to be in the current meta. Spill Blood, we're not playing Axis. Spoils of War, staple card, we're playing them. Red Steelblade Shunt, we're definitely playing 3 in the sideboard. Very, very useful against Bravo and against Dory, and maybe against Oldhim as well. Maybe, we'll see. Steelblade Supremacy, one of the best cards in the deck. Obviously, we're going to be playing all 3. Stroke of Foresight, just like Out for Blood, 1 for 3 with an effect. Very nice. We're going to play all 3. Warriors Valor Red. If you're not playing Warriors Valor Red, what are you doing? All right. So that's done with the red cards. All right. So the yellows now. The yellow cards, you have to be really, really good for me to pick them, because one of the things that you can run into as Dory is getting multiple yellow hands, and that's really, really clunky. You really want to avoid drawing 2 yellows at the same time. All right. Yellow Biting Blade, we're not going to play. It's not good enough. Blade Runner, we're not going to play. Dauntless. All right. First card that that meets the criteria is Glistening Steelblade. This card is ridiculous. This card basically tells the aggro decks, hey, we're going to start racing now, basically. And against the more controlling decks, this is going to be quite a thorn in their side, especially with Remembrance, which spoiler alert, we're going to be running. This card is just so threatening. It basically demands that they block it or give up their armor. So we're going to be obviously playing all 3. Yellow Hit and Run. Again, this is a effect that I don't think we need at the moment. In the swing, we're not playing the red. We're obviously not playing the yellow. Iron Song Determination, perhaps the most controversial card. Let's pull up something here. So this is the talishar.net page. So they have all the stats here. As you can see, Dory's doing pretty decently here. You know, not bad. So let's pull her up here. So we can see all the matchups here. As you can see, you know, the matchup against Oldhim is pretty hard, 31%. But, you know, she does decently against, you know, Lexi, Kano, you know, Katsu. Even against Icelander, you know, it's not too bad, right? Bravo is not too bad either. As I said earlier, like, Viscerite can be potentially hard. The stats reflecting this. Briar is not too bad, though. Where's Phi? Yeah, Phi is even easier, apparently. Okay, so, yeah, as I explained earlier, Phi and Briar are not too hard, but Viscerite potentially is hard. So, anyways, over here, we get to see what cards are played and their effect on the win rate. But I just want to look here at the number of plays. So these, you know, anything with, let's see. So 2,722. Oh, sorry, 5,000. Yeah, okay, 2,722. Okay, there should be like 5,000 games, but okay. Anyways, the decks, the column here that says number of plays, if we find some that's like 2,000-3,000, that means the community considers it a staple card. So I want you to, so, you know, things like Blade Flash, Energy Potion. Where is the card we were talking about? Yeah. I don't know. I guess some of these Dory decks are axe build decks, so I can see why this is not literally every deck. But all right, so Iron Song's Determination here. Okay, so about this is a pretty popular card. Okay, so you know, it's played as much as Red Overpower, almost more than Nourishing. So this is a card that the community seems to like a lot. However, I don't like this card very much at all. The reason being is that this card goes against what you want to do in this deck. This card basically says you can't block, or you can't block effectively. So there's two situations. You play this against an aggro deck, they weren't going to block you anyways. So this is a 0 for 2, possibly a 0 for 3 if you triple hit combo, right? Against the aggro decks, if you play this early, they might have a D-React in Arsenal. They probably... Sorry, if you play this against the control decks, if you play this early, they probably have a D-React in Arsenal. That they might. They also might have armor left as well. So that's not really effective either. And, you know, people could say, oh, Iron Song Determination plus Glistening Steelblade is a great combo. Yes, it is. However, you need a blue, and then you need a pump. Like, if you swing with Glistening and Iron Song Determination and you don't have a pump, and they throw 4 defense in front of it, which most decks are able to do that, and you don't have a pump, that just ends your turn, right? So in order to use this card effectively, you have to have Glistening Steelblade, a blue, and a pump. And that's just so restrictive on, you know, that. Obviously, you could set this up in Arsenal, but in order, like, if you set Glistening Steelblade into Arsenal and you're waiting for your Iron Song Determination, that means you're running 3 Iron Song Determinations generally. And if I'm going to run any, I'm going to run, like, 1 in the sideboard. Like, if you're running 3 in the main deck, trying to combo it with Glistening Steelblade, like, it being a yellow and its effect not being very good just makes me really not want to play this. The only time I'd consider this card is maybe as a sideboard card against very defensive decks. This could be used as a pseudo route. This plus route is probably one of the best finishers against control decks, especially once they've run out of D-Reacts. So I could see a single copy in the sideboard coming in against very, very defensive decks like Oldhim, Bravo, and Dash. But I would not play any main board, and I would not play more than 1 in the sideboard. Yellow Iron Song Response. This is actually a very interesting card. This is a card that if you play a single copy of this, it's going to mess with their head quite a bit. I think if we were in a more aggressive meta, this might be decent because one of the most valuable plays you can make as Dory is pitch a blue Warrior's Valor Swing. And because of how the resources line up, you have to have Iron Song Response. So I think that maybe this could be used one day. However, I don't think that day is today. But I do think it's a cute card. We're not playing Nature's Path Pilgrimage unless it's the blue. Yellow Out for Blood, not valuable enough. Outland Skirmish. Again, we're not playing one-handed weapons. Yellow Overpower. Again, this is a card that you could run 1 of. It would be cute. Plow Through, we're not running. Push Forward, we're not running. Run Through. So this is an interesting card. This is a card that I was hovering between 2 and 3, and I think because we're more back pump focused, I think the correct play here is to run all 3 of them. So we're going to run 3 Run Through. This, along with Glistening Steelblade, were the real big pickups in the Dory versus Reinhardt deck. Yellow Second Swing we're not playing. Sharpen Steel we're not playing. Shatter. Oh, interesting card here. This is a card that I think you're going to want to play at least 1 of. And it's going to be in the sideboard, obviously. This has one purpose, and one purpose only. This is utilized to destroy the rampart of the Ram's Head. However, in order to do that, that's actually pretty tricky because you have to deal 2 damage in order for this to trigger. So you have to deal 2 damage, and you have to give up a card for this. I think you have to play 1, just because if you are able to shatter the ram part of Ram's Head, that match becomes much easier, because they can't, you know, Crown of Seeds plus Rampart. So I think you got to play 1. However, I'm not really in love with this card. This card is, I don't know. It's just, I think you just got to run it, but it's like a reluctant, I'm very reluctant to run it. But I think we need access to this effect to swing that matchup in our favor. Singing Steelblade. Got to play all 3 of them, obviously. Slice and Dice. Let's talk a little bit more about Singing Steelblade. Singing Steelblade allows you to tutor for things. And this is one of the best cards for punishing very defensive decks. Because you can either choose to go over with something like Overpower Route, or go around with things like Twinning Blade. So this card is very important. If you're... This is one of the cards I would basically never be blocking with. I would try to save this for the second cycle as well. Slice and Dice, again, we're not playing. Yellow Steelblade Shunt. This is a decent card, actually. And if there is more Bravo and Dory, I think this is decent. I have played 2 in the past. I think the correct play now is to run 1. But... this is also a card that we could also just run 0 of. So we're going to add 1 to the sideboard. I think this is a decent card. Just having Yellow Steelblade Shunts really helps you against Bravo. Yellow Stroke of Foresight. We're not going to play that. Twinning Blade. This is one of the best cards on our deck. We are going to be playing all 3 copies of that in the main board. This is actually a very key card, because this allows you to punish overblocks. Unified Decree. This is a card that I know has been gaining some traction. However, I think you have to warp your deck build quite a bit for it. You also need a lot of energy to play this. And you need Reprise. So I could see 1 in the sideboard just as a cute one of, you know, kind of like Biting Blade. Sometimes you want to tutor for that. But even if you tutor for this with Singing Steelblade, you're gonna be going blind off the top. So I'm not in love with this card, although I think one day this card might be good if there's more like scry effects, opt effects for the game, or for Warrior in general. Yellow Warrior's Valor. This card is one of the key cards for dealing with the aggro decks, because it just gives you more threat density. However, it's not very good against the defensive decks. But I think we will... There's a 50-50 chance we're going to be running this, and if we do, it's going to be a 3 of in the sideboard. Alright, moving on to the blues. Blue Biting Blade. It's too much of a cost. Blade Runner, we can't play. Dauntless, no thank you. Driving Blade, no thank you. Duskpath Pilgrimage, no thank you. Glint the Quicksilver, auto 3 of. Hit and Run, auto 3 of. You know, blue Hit and Run is really quite nice on the second cycle in a deck. Sometimes you just need it. Glint, one of the greatest cards in the game. This is actually my default playmat as well. And with the addition of Run Through, when you swing Naked Dawnblade, it doesn't necessarily mean Glint. So this card is just excellent. In the swing, we're not going to play. Blue Iron Song Response. I quite like this card. Sometimes 1 damage is all it takes, especially in the late game. We're definitely going to play all 3 of those. Blue Nathan's Path Pilgrimage. This is a card that I quite like. It is, like, in terms of, like, blue cards, there are, like, 6 or 7 cards I would say is ahead of this. But this is, like, the 8th or 9th best blue card in Warrior. And I would say, like, this is a card that you might want to utilize in the sideboard, if you wanted to up your blue count, this might be a decent way to do it. So I think I'd put possibly 3 in the sideboard. We might come down to 0. We'll see. Out for Blood Blue. This is a pretty good card. I quite like it. Probably be playing all 3 of them. Outland Skirmish. We're not playing one-handed weapons. Blue Overpower. One of the best cards in the late game. We're going to use all 3 of those. 3 for 4 sometimes is all you need in the late game, especially when you're flooded with blues. This is the card that, you know, can get you there oftentimes. Blue Plowthrough. Not a bad card. Kind of like Nature's Path Pilgrimage. It's decent, but it's not in the top cut. So we'll leave it in out for now. Blue Push Forward, very similar to Plowthrough. Not too bad. But again, not quite good enough. Second Swing, not good enough. Sharp Steel, not good enough. Slice and Dice, again, not too bad actually. 0 for 2 for a blue is not bad. Blue Steelblade Shunt. Interesting card. This actually might be the card that we actually run as our 7th or 8th blue, because we need to think about the situations when we need more blues. So we need more blues against Oldhim and Icelander, right? And against Oldhim, this is basically a guaranteed damage against him. Not too bad. We'll put 1 in the sideboard. We might be playing that. Stroke Firesight Blue. This card is kind of a super niche card. If you're playing the Unified Decree build, you would probably play this. But outside of that, I don't think it's good enough. Blue Warriors Valor. Excellent card. We're going to be playing that. Okay. So in terms of blues, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we have 18 blues. These are my favorite blues at the moment. All right. Let's round off the equipment here. I know a lot of people like Crown of Providence. However, I actually like Skullcap more than Crown of Providence. Let me explain my thinking here. Oftentimes as Warrior, the games come down to 1 or 2 life. And, you know, this does block for an extra point of damage. Crown of Providence basically allows you to... You need to think about the situations where this is good. So, this is this is good against CNC. However, Dory's already pretty insulated against CNC because all your cards block for 3, basically. Plus you have armor. So, I don't really think that's a huge point in favor of Crown of Providence. Next, this also allows you to fix a hand with all reds. However, if you have a hand of all reds as Dory, you're just going to block and move on with your life. The only time it really punishes you is when you attacked them and they blocked out and you broke through and you got a counter on your Dawnblade and you have the tempo and then you draw 4 reds. Well, Crown of Providence isn't even going to save you then because you're not going to get a chance to use it to sink a card. So that point doesn't even make sense to me. In general, Crown of Providence, I think, is for decks that don't have a better headpiece, or decks that are bad against CNC, or decks that really, really need the card filtering. And Dory is not any of those things. So I really think the better play in general is the Skullcap. The other option that I've seen is the Helm of the Sharp Eye. I don't know about this card. You need to have you need to know what's on top of your deck. That's already kind of hard. You need an extra resource. That's kind of hard. You need the resources to play the card that you don't know what it is. That's also kind of hard. In addition to that, your weapon has to be greater than twice its base. That means 7. And it's not easy to get to 7. So I don't even know if I'm going to play this. I don't think I'm going to play Helm of the Sharp Eye. I'm not going to play Crown of Dominion. That means it's going to be Skullcap. So we're going to play that. We're going to play it main board. Alright, next. Brave Forge Bracers. I guess technically this should be in the sideboard because we are running the Null-Rune Suite. Bracers, excellent card. We're going to play it. Courage of Bladehold, excellent card. We're going to play it. This card generally used when the games are faster or we really need to set up a triple hit combo. So I would use this against the aggro decks. I'd also use this against Dash. Okay. Dawnblade Resplendent. This is a card that I've come back and forth on. I don't think there's enough deck slots at the moment to put this in. And I don't think... This is a card that I used to really love, but just having 2 power and you lose your on-hit effect just to, run Glistening Steelblade and a bunch of Remembrances, I don't think that's actually good enough. Especially, I think it's too easy for that plan to go wrong, and Dawnblade is more stable. So we're going to play the OG Dawnblade. We are not going to play Dawnblade Resplendent. Tunic, excellent card. We're going to play it. Comes in against Icelander. Comes in when we want to play Shunt. Gallantry Gold, nope. Gambler's Gloves, nope. Alright, Null-Rune. We're going to be running the Boots, Hood, and Gloves. So that means we can run AB3 plus Tunic against Icelander. Against Kano, we would actually prefer to run Bolters plus AB3, but that would require an extra sideboard slot. And Kano's not a huge part of the metagame, so we're not gonna include that. Refraction Bolters, we're obviously gonna play that. That's really good. This card is like how you utilize Refraction Bolters. If I'm observing a game, I can actually tell how good the Dory is by how they utilize Refraction Bolters. You really, really need to use these in general as late as possible. Because as soon as you use these, the decision tree, or the decision tree that your opponent has to think about on your side, gets reduced greatly. Valiant Dynamo. Interesting card. I think that Refraction Bolters are just too important to the double hit Dawnblade strategy, so we will not play that. Alright, so that is our armor suite. So we have Dawnblade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 cards dedicated to equipment. Alright, token size. Technically we need a copper token, right? We might need a quicken token. We will see. Okay, so let's jump back to the deck and let's look at the generic cards. There's a lot of generic cards. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I am going to pick out the ones that deserve a mention. All right, let's see here. If only Dory could run this, huh? Okay, first card I want to talk about is Command and Conquer. Because we have quite a bit of unconditional go again now, I think this card becomes much better. Crown of Providence is a thing, but they're more likely to use Crown of Providence before you actually play Command and Conquer. So there's that. It's also a good popper. I think this might be a 3 of in the sideboard. We'll see. Okay, next. Erase Face kind of similar, but I think the effect of Command and Conquer is better. Fate Foreseen. I think we can get by with Shunt and Sync. I don't think we need Fate Foreseen. Okay, Flock of the Featherwalkers. This was another card that was part of the Twinning Blade package combo. I don't think we need a Quicken token anymore. We have so many other ways of getting Go Again. That utilizing our Tunic to play this means we don't have our Tunic for the turn. We have our Quicken token. This card used to be pretty good, but I think it's time to say goodbye to Flock. I don't think it'll be back in my deck anytime soon. Yeah. Red Fendel's Fighting Spirit. I think if Prism was in the meta, this might be decent because it's good against Herald of Triumph. However, against Dramai, you can just run the straight 6s. You don't need 7 power. High Striker. This is an interesting card. Sometimes you would play this with a Cashin. Nourishing Emptiness. This is a very, very nice card. I think you play one main deck at least. Oasis Respite. Oh, this is an interesting card. I think this is a decent sideboard card against the Wizards. Also, possibly useful against the Guardians as well. Anytime you are running Tunic, this might be pretty decent. I think we can play 3 on the sideboard. We might cut down to 2. We'll see. Pummel. This is a card I see some Dory lists running to combine with Pursuit of Knowledge and CNC and all that. It's cute, but I don't think that's where you want to be. Razor Reflex. Another 1 for 3. I actually think because we're back pump focused, I think we need them. We're gonna add them to the main. They might go to the side. They might go down in count. We'll see. Sigil Solace is a card that I really loved in Blitz. You can really trick people with this card. I actually quite like it. You know, let's throw them into the sideboard. Well, this will probably end up being cut, but you can just mess with people so badly as Dory with Sigil of Solace. Sink Below, I think we're going to run 3 in the sideboard. Okay. There's Cashin. It's too cute to run 1 in the sideboard, I think. All right, where is it? Oh, there we go. Remembrance. This card, pretty important card against the Guardians. I don't know if we want to run 1 or 2. I think we'll run 1 for now. 2 might just create some clunky hands. I don't know. Anything else? This was a cute card back in the day, but not too useful nowadays. That all you got. This is a card. It is worse than I thought it was. Let's just put it that way. Because you get a unknown card, and Dory's not really that great at utilizing unknown cards. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the only yellow that we're adding there was the Remembrance. All right, on to the blues. All right, Blade Flash. Interesting card. If this blocked for 3, this would be an auto include. As it stands, it blocks for 2. It costs 1. And, I mean, it's just so much worse than Glint. But it does give the sword go again. Let's add it to the sideboard. This might be a 0-3, and it might be main deck or not. We'll see. Energy Potion. Excellent card. Very useful in Dory, playing all 3. I have Ophidia. This is utilized in that Helm of the Sharp Eye build. Heart of Fendel. I like this card. I think because the games are going a bit slower, this card might be... Dorinthea is actually one of the very, very few decks that actually utilizes Heart of Fendel. I think we're going to add one to the side. I mean, not like we could play more than one, but I do think this card... this might be the time for this card in Dory. Last Ditch Effort. This card is also very interesting. I saw some lists running it. But then at that point, like, you would need 2 blues and 2 Last Ditch Efforts as your last 4 cards, and then you could go 8-8. And then I guess if you had Tunic, you could go like 8-8-3. Maybe that's good enough. It blocks for 3. It does mess with Nourishing Emptiness. That's kind of the thing. So I think we're just going to leave it out. This is an interesting card, though. This might actually be like a one of. I think maybe a one of. We'll see. But we'll leave it out for now. Lunging Press, cute card, but I don't think this is the right deck for that. Here's that blue pummel, blue Pursuit of Knowledge. Cute, but I don't like cards that block for 2. Even though this is quite a nice effect. But this is still, you know, 2 cards to play this. It's just, yeah, kind of rough. Good old Snag. You guys remember that? Time Snap Potion. We'll add 3 to the sideboard. This is a card that I think is less useful nowadays. However, it's still really, really nice against Dash. Decent against the Guardians, so maybe. There's a card that I haven't seen yet. It's a red card. Thrust. Here we go. So this is actually a card that I think is kind of defining for the deck in a weird way. Because if you're playing Thrust, you're really back pump focused. Because the tier list goes, you know, Out for Blood, Stroke of Foresight, Iron Song Response are all here. Razor Reflex is here. And Thrust is like down here, right? Although in this deck, Thrust and Razor Reflex are actually the same effect. Because we don't have any 1-cost attack actions. So, I mean, the play here might be to play 2 Razor Reflex, 2 Thrust, just to mess with them. I don't know if we need like 6 of these 1-for-3 vanilla effects. But yeah, I think we probably want like 4 to 6, and if we're running 4 to 6, we're going to be running, you know, if we're running 4, we're going to be definitely going to run 2 and 2 just to mess with people. But if we're running 5, we'll run the Razor and then 2 Thrust. We're going to add 3 to the sideboard. I think, depending on how the sideboarding goes, we might want that. All right. So, we have a lot more than 80 cards here. So we're going to have to cut this monstrosity down to 80. Just going over the deck. I guess let's view it as a list. Yeah, let's just do it like that. All right. So, core of our deck. Honestly, Razor Reflex might be in the sideboard. Maybe. I don't know. We have a lot of blues now. This Out for Blood may get cut down to 1. We'll see. Okay. Let's start thinking about our matchups in particular. So, we already have 56 cards. Is that really correct? Six. 38. Yeah, this is 56. Huh. Okay, so this is actually more than I thought. Huh. Okay. Okay. Let's start cutting down here a little bit. Okay, so the deck might actually be too tight to run Biting Blade. As much as I like that card. Alright. Biting Blade, you're gone. So let's look at our poppers here. We have Nourishing Emptiness, we have CNC, and that's it, actually. I think 4 poppers might be decent enough. The matchup against Jeremiah is already decent. I don't think we need to commit too much to that. So I think we're just going to keep the Command and Conquers in. These hit and runs, the red ones, again, I don't think we're going to need them. Red Iron Song Response, we're going to keep. Oasis Respite, we're going to keep. Overpower, we're going to keep. Plow Through. I'd like to have it, but I don't think we have room for it. So we're going to cut that. Second route, we're going to keep. Sigil Solace, another card I really like, but I don't think we can keep that, unfortunately. Sink Below. Oh, man. We have to think, like, what matchups would we want Sink Below in? It's only against Guardian. And it's much better against Bravo than against Oldhim. Oldhim, the first Oaken Old is just going to get a card plus 2 armor. And then the next Oaken Old is going to get a card plus 2 armor, probably. So, it does cleanly block the Frost Hammer, though. It's good in the mirror, but I don't think the mirror's that common. Oh, man. I mean, we've noticed that a lot of the other decks here are also cutting it, so... I guess it... I mean, Sink Below might actually just be a crutch that... I mean, if I just use my shunts better, I can actually get away with no Sink Below. All right, we're gonna cut it down to 1. Let's see. Let's just put it like that. Steel Blade Shunt Red. We're gonna keep Thrust. Now's the time we have to decide how many of these Razor Reflex effects we're playing. I think let's cut it down to 4 of those effects. So let's run 2 Razors and. You know what? Let's put the Razors on the side. And we'll put Thrust. Where's Thrust? We'll put 2. Alright, so we have 4 of those effects. Iron Song Determination. I mean, if I have extra pumps and I have Heart, I have Remembrance, I don't even know if I need Determination. Let's cut that, see how the deck looks without it. 1 remembrance, we'll keep 1 shatter. I don't even know if you play this. Like, if you're playing against a fairly aggressive Oldhim, I don't even know if you have time to shatter there. Cutting this seems rough though. I think we need slots. So let's cut the shatter. Let's cut the blue or the yellow shunt, and let's see how that looks. Okay. 3 Warriors Valor. We don't have a lot of cards that come in against aggro, but I think this is gonna need that. All right, let's move to the blues. I think it's time to cut Nature's Path. I don't think we have room for that. How are we looking now? 95 still. Oh my. That is tough. I mean, does it count this? No, it doesn't, but wow, that's actually a lot. Jeez. This is 41, really? 7, 8. 28, 30, 33. Huh. It is 41. Okay. Okay, choices have to be made, I guess. In terms of time snap potion, I think we can get away with just 1. I don't think we need 3. That's actually, E-Pot is much, much more important than time snap. Blue Steel Blade Shunt, I don't think we need that either. We'll cut that. 3 Blade Flash. Ugh. Do we even need this? Is the question. Let's put 1. Okay, how are we doing now? 90. 90. Oof. Huh. This actually makes me want to consider cutting the CNCs here. That is tough. That is tough. Okay, so let's start thinking about here. If this is our core of our deck, this is like, let's think, is this really the core? Alfred Blood Blue. I think we can cut that down to 1. Of the blues here, I think this is actually the weakest one. Because you don't really want to play it. Okay, so currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 16 blues, and we can add yeah, okay, so we can go up to 22 blues. I think that's fine. Okay. So this is the core. Okay, so we have 51 core. So let's think about like adding 9 cards. So against aggro, we'd probably add these and these. This plus this. A lot of our sideboard is actually dedicated to the controlling matchups more. Do we even need a second route? I don't know. I don't actually know if you need 2 routes. I don't think you need the sync. This deck list is so tight. It's having to cut my favorite card. It hurts. Is what it is, though. In fact, actually, route may not even be a main board card. It might just be a sideboard card. Nah, it's a main board card. All right. How does this look now? 86. Okay, we're getting there. This deck is so focused on pumping and hitting twice, I don't even think this might not even be good anymore. Let's cut the CNC for now. Let's see. We might come back to that. If our Dromai matchup looks bad, we might add it back. Alright. We've cut down a ton of cards now. Do we need 3 Oasis Respite? I mean, this is only really useful against Aether Ice Vein, I guess. Blazing Aether. Let's try 2. Let's see how that goes. Because this is not a card you want to draw multiple of. It also increases your red count. Alright, we are at 82. Tough. Is it really cutting these? It might be. Might cut 1 thrust. So now we have 3 of these Razor Reflex effects. And if we cut the Blade Flash, we'll go down to 21 blues. That might be the play here. I'm not a fan of paying 1 to give my sword go again. Alright. We've cut down to 80. Okay. Let's take a look here. Alright. Looking pretty good. Let's take a look at the stats here a little bit. 51 in my deck, 0 non-blocking, Nourishing Emptiness. "29 attack reactions is quite a bit. In the past, this used to be like closer to 20. It's a lot of go again. Whole deck blocks for 3 now. Quite nice. 23, 12, 16. I can live with it. Alright, with 16 blues. 1 out of 5 hands, we're not going to have a blue. Is what it is. Normally we're going to have 1 or 2 blues. Seems good. Let's see. If we have a... Let's quickly look at... So if we add all of our blues, how many blues would we have? We added in all our blues. We have 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, so 21. So if we have 60, 21... Okay, so... Okay, so 1 out of 3 hands we would have 2. That's not too bad. I'm a little shaky on our blue count. I feel like it's a little low. I'm really wondering if we even need Yellow Warrior's Valor. Like, I do really like this card against aggro, though. But it might just, like, there might just be enough threats that we don't need that. Like, Glistening Steelblade kind of replaces Yellow's Warrior's Valor. Let's look at our blues again. because I feel like we're a little low on blues. Let's look at the warrior blues, because I mean, I guess Blade Flash is not too bad in those matchups, but okay, so candidates are Slice and Dice, Push Forward, Plow Through, Nature's Path Pilgrimage, or Blade Flash. Blade Flash really does help our back pump focus style, though. It's also a card I haven't played much with, so I think I might just try it out, see how I like it. Let's add 3 to the sideboard. Let's cut the Yellow Warrior's Valor. I really do like that card, but it might just be more for like Blitz, where you kind of have to hedge. That's actually a card like I often draw Warrior's Valor plus like a Spoils of War, or Warrior's Valor plus another Warrior's Valor. It's just not where you want to be. Okay, we're back at 80 cards. We added in some Blade Flashes just to help with our blue count. We might actually... They actually might be main deck, actually. What matchup would I not want to play Blade Flash in? I actually think it is a main deck card. Okay, so now we have 19 blues. I think this is a... Let's look at the stats here. I think we're gonna... Yeah. Much more comfortable amount of blues now. And if we want, we can go up to 23 blues. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. Extra blues will help just to pay for our 1 cost and 3 cost attack reactions. It's also going to be helpful against the ice decks as well. So I think that's how we're going to play it. All right, let's move on now to creating some of these matchup configurations. So let's talk about our aggro. So buy this Briar, Katsu. Yeah, stuff like that. Okay, so in terms of armor, we're going to be running the Skull Cap, Bracers, and these are the type of matchups I'd be running Courage, and we would run for Fraction Bolters. I don't actually think you need Null Rune against Briar. Null Rune is nice to have against Vis, but if you're spending cards to block Arcane, that means you have less cards to push into Viscerai. I just don't think... I mean, if you're going second, maybe you run Null Rune against him. Maybe. Because you could just take like 6 damage for no reason on turn 1, right? I mean, I guess actually it wouldn't even matter because you're going to take that arcane damage anyways, unless you have a lot of blues. Anyways, so we're gonna stick with the no AB plan in general against Rune Blades. We are not gonna play our Iron Song response because the third one, because we might get awkward hands. We don't need our overpower here. I don't even know if we need our Razor Reflex here. Let's see here. don't want our shunt. We don't want our thrust. We don't want our remembrance. We actually aren't adding very many cards at all. Did we add any cards? We didn't add any. That's okay. This is bad. Let's see. Okay, so we need to add 6 cards. What 6 cards would we add against aggro? First of all, do we need to up our blue count? No, we don't. Do we want remembrance? No, it doesn't block. And the game doesn't go that long. So it's the 6 cards. We'd add our thrust. Our razor reflex. That's 3. Do we really add our overrows? 4, 5? And okay, I guess we just go up all of our attack reacts. And we get to 60. Not a huge fan of this, actually. But I think the deck list is pretty tight. I don't even... Like, I would prefer more go again here, but it might be actually okay because we're running so much go again attack reacts that, like, having extra attack reacts to make sure we hit on our first attack is actually fine. Yeah, let's try it like that. Okay, so yeah, we'll run it like that. 60 plus fridge. Okay. Let's add another matchup. Let's add our Icelander. So against Icelander, we're going to be running our AB plus our Tunic. We'll run our Oasis Respite. We'll up our blue count as high as we can. So we're playing all our blues. I don't think we need Remembrance. And then we're going to want all the back pump we can get. How much are we at now? 61 already. Okay. So... is this a matchup that we run like more? Interesting. I feel like we already have enough attack reacts in our main board to punch through. Unless they're very defensive, I don't think we got 2, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10. Should be okay. I don't even know if we need the... Yeah, 61 might be decent here. 61 might work here. I mean, do we need the do we need extra attack reacts against them? I mean, Iron Song response red might be my only consideration here because it costs 0. I don't think we can really afford to pay for the others. So, all right. Yep, this looks decent. Let's roll with this. The time snap potion. I think we just have to keep it because we need more blues. Okay, next matchup, Oldhim. Do I have to... Yeah, a new matchup. Here we go. Okay. Against Oldhim, we will... It's just a Courage or Tunic matchup. That's actually interesting. I think you have to assume that the game will go long, and I think you have to play Tunic. Yep. Okay, so we'll play like that. So this is the matchup where we're going to bring in our big attack reacts. Going to bring in our Remembrance. Bring in our Heart of Fundle. Bring in our Epots. And I think this is a decent for time snap as well. Okay, so like that. Are we playing Shunt against Oldhim? No, we're not. 66. All right. looking all right. So double check here. Yeah, looks good. Bravo. Same armor suite. Same thing, we add the heavy attack reacts. This time we add the shunt. We add a remembrance. We also add our Heart of Fendel. This time I don't think we need as many potions. I would, you know, play... maybe one in... I don't... Against Bravo, you generally just need one big play against them, so I think a single energy potion might be okay. It's a little dangerous to have a lot of cards that don't block against him. So let's just keep our no blocks to a minimum there. 66 as well, a little bit different configuration here compared to Ultim. What other matchup haven't I talked about? Dash. Okay, against Dash, we'll run we'll run the same armor suite. We have to go up on our attack reacts. We don't need our shunt. Don't think this is a remembrance matchup, because if you give them so much time that you actually get down low on deck, like, you've already lost at that point. This is a matchup where I do like to set up a bit more, so E-Pot's nice. Heart of Fendel, I don't think you're going to be lower life than them often. If you're lower life than Dash, you've lost already. And then we'll play the time snap. Okay, against Dash, that's what we're going to be running. What is the it's another matchup? Dromai. Okay. Dromai. Okay, against Dromai, I think the matchup... I don't actually know if it's a Tunic or a Courage matchup. I think it's a Courage matchup. I think the matches are going to go a little bit quicker. Like, you want the matches to go a little bit quicker. Okay, so we'll run the fridge. This might just be add all the attack reacts. Actually, this is the same thing as this is the same thing as this. Bolton is probably the same. Azalea. Actually, maybe Azalea might actually bring in shunts. Labaya. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, how do I delete this? I don't know how to delete this, but anyways. Yeah, it's basically just adding the attack reacts and going ham with the courage. So yeah. I think that will do it. Just to run through the final deck list now. It has been quite a journey, but I hope you guys have enjoyed me talking through all of the matchups, talking about all the card considerations, and seeing how a deck gets built live. So, our default configuration, in other words, our core deck, we will add cards from the sideboard to it. 3 Blade Flash, 3 Glint the Quicksilver, 3 Glistening Steel Blade, 3 Hit and Run, 2 red Iron Song response, 3 blue Iron Song response, 1 Nourishing Emptiness, 3 red Out for Blood, 1 blue Out for Blood, 1 red Overpower, 3 blue Overpower, 1 Route, 3 Run Through, 3 Sharpened Steel, 3 Singing Steel Blade, 3 Spoils of War, 3 Steel Blade Supremacy, 3 Stroke of Foresight, 3 Twinning Blade, 3 red Warrior's Valor, 3 blue Warrior's Valor. That gives us 54 cards. We run the Dawn Blade in all matchups. And here's our sideboard. 3 E-Pots, a Heart of Fendel, red Iron Song response, 2 Oasis Respite, 2 Overpower reds, 2 red Razor Reflex, a Remembrance, 3 Steel Blade Shunts, 1 Thrust, 1 Time Snap Potion, Skull Cap, Bracer's Courage, Tunic, Nilrune Boots, Nilrune Gloves, Nilrune Hood, Refraction Bolters, and our handy copper token. There you go. That's the list. Again, this list will be available in the link in the description below, so you guys can try it out on talishar.net. This deck will get some stats, and then we'll see how it is, and we'll update it as we go. So yeah, once again, if you want to take a screenshot or whatever, here you go. There's my finished artwork. All right. Yep. Just thanks for watching this video. We'll come out with some more content, maybe some gameplay, or I will redo my Bolton deck as well. We'll see. If you guys have any suggestions for content, you can just leave that in the description below, or the comment section below. And yeah, until next time, I hope you guys are having a good day. All right, I'm out. See ya.